It can be a heavy topic, it can be overwhelming, it can be abstract, but hopefully what we're going to do for you today is demystify AI. So I come at this as, I like to say like as a storyteller first and foremost, and an entrepreneur and a marketer by trade. I am not a machine learning engineer, data scientist, AI researcher, like scientific AI researcher. I just started exploring AI in 2011 to try and understand it. And at the time I was running a marketing agency, which I had founded in 2005. And I was actually trying to figure out, can AI, whatever it is, I had actually watched IBM Watson win on Jeopardy. That was what made me curious about AI. Whatever that was, could I use it to predict how to spend clients' marketing dollars? So clients would come to us across, I mean, in the 16 years I owned the agency, I sold it in 2021. We worked with probably over 500 clients across 3-4 dozen industries. So people would come to me with really complex challenges that would be challenging for me because maybe I hadn't worked in that industry before. And they would come and they would want more leads or more growth or reduced churn or whatever their goal was. And so I looked at it and said, well, when I got out of college in 2000, there was like 10 ways to spend your marketing dollars. By 2011, when Watson went on Jeopardy, there was like 10,000 ways to spend your marketing dollars. And so I had just become convinced that the human mind was actually incapable of building an optimal marketing strategy. And that was what set me down on a path to try and understand and apply AI. So I started the AI Institute in 2016 to start sharing what we were learning. And then, like I said, in 2021, I sold my agency. And the reason I sold it was I actually read a book called Genius Makers by Cade Metz, which I would recommend to everyone. I was on spring break with my family in Florida. It was April 2021. And I was listening to the book while I was out taking a walk. And I realized in that moment that I had overestimated how quickly the rest of the world would realize the importance of AI, how quickly would it be adopted within business, within educational systems, within government. But I had underestimated the total impact it was going to have. And so in that moment I realized I have to sell my agency. Like I have to focus my energy on trying to solve AI and the impact it's going to have. So here we are today where you can't really go into a board meeting or you can't have a conversation with a leader where AI isn't at the top of the conversation. And so it's literally starting to change everything. And I have spent the last, whenever ChatGPT came out in November of last year, I feel like 5-10 times a week I'm talking to CEOs of different companies, heads of nonprofits, presidents of universities, like everyone is trying to figure this out. And the challenge is that in a lot of cases, what happened was AI as a discipline, as an area of study, goes actually back to like the 1950s. So have you ever watched Imitation Game? There was, even back then in the 40s and 50s and 60s, there's these theories that we could give machines human-like capabilities, that we could build these intelligent machines that could think and reason and understand. And it just went through all these different, what we call AI winters, like where it just didn't realize its promise. But then what happened last year is on November 30th, 2022, ChatGPT was introduced into the world by OpenAI. And so all of these leaders that we're now hearing from daily all realized at the same time that AI was actually something that mattered in their company, that it wasn't just this sci-fi thing anymore. It was something that could be infused into different aspects of their organization. But for me, the challenge became they thought that that was it. They just needed to solve for ChatGPT, and then they would understand and be adopting AI. But when we look at the broader spectrum of what AI actually is, which we'll talk about today, we can see that the impact is going to be far greater than most leaders still today understand, unfortunately including most government leaders. And the part that for me was somewhat frustrating is it was actually happening in plain sight, but people just weren't paying attention. So this is a blog post that Sam Altman wrote in March 16th of 2021. So this is a year and a half before ChatGPT came out. He wrote something called Moore's Law for Everything. So if you're not familiar with Moore's Law, Gordon Moore, founder of Intel, back in, I think it was 1965-ish, his theory that every 2 years or so, the number of transistors on a chip would double, meaning the computing power of these chips that now power our phones and our TVs and our computers would keep doubling in capability every couple years. And that has stayed true now for 70 years or so. So Sam was saying that same concept, this doubling of capability, was actually going to happen to intelligence. That these machines not only are just going to have more power, but they're actually going to become smarter and smarter. And the smarter these machines come, they will actually help build smarter machines themselves. So he was saying back, I mean, even as much as 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that the prevailing belief was that AI would come for blue-collar jobs first. It would come for labor. And what ended up happening, to the surprise, honestly, of many people within the AI research community, is it came for knowledge work. And that's the thing that we're still sort of reeling from as a society, is even now, we aren't prepared for what does it mean when AI can do what we thought was uniquely human: thinking, reasoning, creating, writing. And that's what we're now seeing happen. So while this presents all kinds of challenges in business, it does present unparalleled opportunities. The way I like to explain this is we have actually had AI, not only has it been talked about for 70 years, but we've had it in our daily lives for well over a decade now. So if you think about the technology you interact with daily, the applications you use, it is infused with artificial intelligence. Now, it's primarily a form of AI called machine learning, which we'll talk about in a minute. But in essence, what it does is it makes predictions about behaviors and outcomes. And then it uses that to personalize your experiences. So the way that Netflix learns to predict shows and movies you'll like, Spotify, songs and podcasts, Gmail predicting the next words in a sentence, Google Maps predicting the best route around traffic, your social media feeds predicting the kind of content you're going to interact with. All of it is based on this concept of prediction. And so we have had AI in all of these consumer technologies for the last 10 plus years. But what we haven't had is AI infused into business software. So there are aspects of it, which I'll show you again. There was pieces of AI, there's pieces of this machine learning concept in some of the software we're using to do our jobs. But for the most part, the software we have used in business, in marketing, in sales, in service, in maintenance, all of these things, it has really been rules-based. Humans wrote rules to tell it what to do, and then it did those things. What we are now entering is a phase where generative AI is going to be infused into everything we're using. And that creates an exponential growth curve. So when we think about the future of our business and we look to the senior living industry even next year, it's really hard to project what that actually looks like and what we need to be doing in our business strategies and budgeting and staffing, because the future looks nothing like the present. And so our minds think in these linear paths. Like when we build a plan for next year, we're going to build based on what we know to be true. But as I'm going to show you, much of what you believe to be true won't be true 12 months from now. So this is Greg Brockman. You may or may not recognize him. Most people would not. If I took a poll, I'm guessing no one would raise their hand. He is the co-founder and president of OpenAI. So he, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and this other dude named Ilya Sutskever founded OpenAI back in 2015-16 because they worried that Google was going to destroy the world with their AI research. Elon Musk since has left OpenAI. He left the board unceremoniously. He tried to roll OpenAI into Tesla. Sam Altman didn't agree, and Elon is out. So Elon is now building his own AI company, which we're not going to talk about today, but it's just crazy. The AI world is like crazy. It's got soap opera. So anyway, Greg Brockman, who I think was the chief product officer at Stripe prior to coming to OpenAI, tweeted in February of this year. So this is about a month before GPT-4 was introduced. Most amazing fact about AI is that even though it's starting to feel impressive, a year from now we'll look back fondly on the AI that existed today as quaint and antiquated. He could tweet that every February moving forward, like we're moving at this accelerated rate of change. So what does this mean? We look at knowledge works. In the United States, there's 135 or 36 million full-time jobs. Estimates are that 100 million of those jobs are knowledge workers, people who think and create for a living. We are under the assumption that at least 80% of what those people do, all 100 million of those people, is going to be AI assisted to some degree in the next 2 years. And what I mean by that is the software they're using to do their job is going to have AI built into it. They won't be able to get away from the AI. You can't build software today that isn't infused with AI. And so by nature, what's going to happen is everyone is going to have access to these technologies. Now, you may be at the point now where you're starting to think like this is kind of overwhelming. What I will tell you is, if you're at the starting stage, you are in the majority, the large majority. This is a question we did to our AI Institute, which has 55,000 subscribers. So these are people who are already proactively seeking AI knowledge events and courses. And even within that group, when we asked, how would you describe your personal use, the largest percentage are still experimenting. So this is totally biased data. This would not be representative of all marketers, of all business, because they already have a predisposition to be curious about AI and be exploring it. So what I'm saying by that is most people, especially in your industry, are not going to be having a plan for this, are not going to be infusing in their daily workflow yet. So you have a chance to get out ahead of this. Going back to the theory that it's going to be built into all knowledge work, this is why. Do we have any HubSpot customers in the use for sales, service, CRM? Okay, so there's a decent amount. So about 5 weeks ago, they held their inbound conference and they announced dozens of new AI capabilities that are going to be built right into HubSpot. So if you're a HubSpot user, there are some AI capabilities now, and they're going to gradually roll these out over the next 12 months. How about Salesforce users in the audience? Anybody on Salesforce? Okay, same deal. The week after inbound, they held Dreamforce, which is now positioned as the world's largest AI event. And they further announced, they all pre-announced this stuff in February, March, but they are starting to now roll out GPT technology into all aspects of Salesforce. Little kind of pop quiz. GPT, anybody know what GPT stands for in the audience? Okay, we got a couple. Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So when you see Chat GPT, Sales GPT, what it means is in 2017, the Google Brain team, which at the time was the main research lab at Google, invented something called the transformer. They released a paper called Attention is All You Need that basically explained how to build the foundation of what came today's language models. So I'm going to show you this at work, but that's what the T in transformer, the GPT stands for, came from Google, 9 authors at Google who have all since left Google and built language companies. But the reason you're starting to see this rapid kind of iteration and adoption of AI and why it hadn't happened sooner is because the transformer architecture that enabled it is 6 years old. So it's taken this amount of time now for people to start productizing this. They all, like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, they all had variations of ChatGPT in their labs. No one but OpenAI was willing to release it onto the world. So what happened was OpenAI in November said, screw it, and they put it out in the world, and then everyone started racing to follow suit. That's why Google eventually was on 60 Minutes explaining their strategy. So it's this kind of like crazy scenario. So how many Google Workspace customers in the room for docs and sheets? Okay, a few. So if you're an admin on that account, you can go in and turn on something called Duet AI right now, and you can assign licenses. There's a 14-day free trial. What it does is it adds a Help Me Write button to Docs, Gmail. It adds a Help Me Organize button to Sheets. It starts infusing these generative AI capabilities right into the technology you already have. Now keep in mind, if you turn this on for people in accounting and finance and HR and legal, they have no training whatsoever on how to use these things. So, but the tech it's there. So if you want to see what this tech promises to do, this is the best way I can show it to you. This is a demo of Microsoft 365 Copilot. This is starting to roll out November 1st, $30 per user per month. I cannot tell you if it's actually going to be able to do everything it's showing here, but this is what they're building it to do. This is what Google is also trying to do. OpenAI has a ChatGPT Enterprise they're rolling out. They're all trying to do the exact same thing you're about to see. So when we think about the impact this is going to have on the senior living industry, the impact it'll have on the 100 million knowledge work jobs, the biggest question I ask myself is how soon until that is reality? I have heard of people who have access to it who say it's not far from reality, that it actually is going to be able to do much of what you see in that video. And the thing I will say probably multiple times today, and you should repeat to yourself all the time, this is the dumbest form of AI we will ever have in human history. It's only going to get better from here. And I will show you some previews of what that means and what it looks like. But every day we live, we are experiencing the least capable version of this stuff. This, to give you a sense of how fast it's moving, is the last, what day is today? Tuesday? 15 days, Monday. What day is today? Monday? God. This is the last 14 days, highlights of AI news. So Anthropic, which is a large language model company, basically they build, theirs is called Claude, but it's a competitor to ChatGPT. They got 4 billion from Amazon, up to 4 billion. 2 days later, it was announced Google is potentially putting another 2 billion in. They've already put hundreds of millions in. So this is a company probably now valued at about $50 to $70 billion. That's like 3 years old. The former chief scientist, I think, at OpenAI left OpenAI to start this company. Google announced that theirs, Bard, that's their version of ChatGPT, can now connect to your applications and services. What that means is Google Bard can now go look at Google Flights. It can search your Gmail. You can have a conversation with it related to anything in your Gmail, like, hey, when Michael emailed me about the SLIF conference, what time did he say I was going on? It'll actually be able to answer that question in like a threaded chat. So I'm just going to be able to like interact with all these devices through that. Meta, which is a major player in this, they have the most powerful open source model in the world. They announced Meta AI, AI stickers, and AI characters, and Emu, which is their image generation, and you can kind of go down this list. All of this is in the last 14 days. Yeah, wow, I was right. Sometimes my head kind of wants to explode. Okay, so let's take a step back and say, like, what exactly is it? So the best definition I can give you, and trust me, I looked for years to find a definition that made sense to me that I could explain to other people. This is from Demis Hassabis. He is the co-founder and CEO of DeepMind, which was acquired by Google in 2013. He now heads AI at Google. He defined it years ago as the science of making machines smart. The best way to make this definition understandable is to replace machines with software. So the software you use to do business is going to learn and get smarter. So this is as geeky as this will get. AI is the umbrella term for tools and technology that make software smart. Machine learning is the primary subset of AI. Machine learning is what we have had for years. It's what, when I showed those applications, it is the software learning. So I send an email out to 10,000 people, the software learns who opens it, who clicks, who converts, and then the software recommends what to do next time, or it improves the personalization next time on its own. So the software now learns. It's not all on the human to learn everything. Deep learning is trying to give these machines human-like capabilities. They are literally trying to understand how the human brain works, and they're trying to give that capability to machines. So what we have had, my guy from Cubigo, is that how we say it, Cubigo? Yeah. So this is what they're doing with predictive capabilities. So you take a bunch of inputs in, medicines, food, sleep, all these factors, and then you make predictions about someone's behaviors, someone's treatment patterns, all of these things. So we have had prediction in business software, in marketing, in sales, and service. It's the recommendation engines, it's the forecasting models. That is the stuff that we have had. And so we have the ability to build this smarter software. Where we're evolving to, though, is the deep learning component. Where's my guy who was talking about fall detection last night? I didn't get your name. Okay, yeah. So we had like a technology in the room that does fall detection through computer vision. They're monitoring someone in a room and knowing whether they fell or not, basically. So this is all coming through this category of computer vision where we have the ability to not only generate images, we have the ability to recognize objects. What we're showing here is image gen. This is Google's version of image generation technology. OpenAI has DALL-E. They just introduced DALL-E 3 2 weeks ago. So Midjourney is another really popular one. So this is driving major changes in image and video. To give you a sense of what an exponential growth curve actually looks like in technology, this is the best representation I can show you. This is Midjourney, an image, a text-to-image technology. The same prompt over a 16-month period, 6 iterations of the technology. You have an abstract boy on the left, you have photorealism on the right. This same rate of advancement is happening in language generation, video generation, audio generation, code generation. This is what it looks like. To give you a sense of where it's going, I'm going to show you now about a 1 and 15-second clip of a video technology called Runway. When this was introduced in the spring of this year, text to video, I could give a prompt and it would generate a 4-second video. Today, it's 16 seconds. Their North Star, according to their co-founder in an interview I read 2 weeks ago, is a 2-hour film with a prompt.
Not too long ago, Runway pushed the boundaries of generative AI with Gen 1, a video-to-video model that allows you to use words and images to generate new videos out of existing ones. In the weeks since launching, the model has constantly gotten better. Better temporal consistency, better fidelity, better results. And as more and more people gained access, we unlocked entirely new use cases and displays of creativity. And today, we're excited to announce our biggest unlock yet: text to video with Gen 2. Now you can generate a video with nothing but words. No driving video, no input image. Gen 2 represents yet another major research milestone and another monumental step forward for generative AI. With Gen 2, anyone, anywhere can suddenly realize entire worlds, animations, stories, anything you can imagine. Gen 2, coming very soon to runwayml.com.
Show it off at Thanksgiving dinner if you want. You can sit there and create videos. So that's vision. Language is the one that everyone's sort of familiar with because of ChatGPT, but as I was saying earlier, ChatGPT is just one of the players. Has anyone in the room tried Pi.ai from Inflection? No? So this is Pi. You should get familiar with it because I think it's going to impact your industry pretty quickly, which I'll show you in a second. They raised, when they were 12 months old, they raised $1.3 billion. Their co-founders are Mustafa Suleyman, who co-founded DeepMind with Demis Hassabis, and Reid Hoffman, who created LinkedIn. What it is a large language model. So what ChatGPT is, what Google Bard is, an Anthropic Claude, Inflection Pi, they are language models. That is the technical term for what they are powered by. Language models predict words in a sequence. They learn from a corpus of knowledge, books, podcast transcripts, Wikipedia, your website, everything. It just like absorbs the internet and predicts how humans write words is generally what it does. So the reason, if you go use ChatGPT and it just like makes something up, which it does often, it'll just make up a citation that doesn't exist, like a book that was never written. It's because they hallucinate. It's not like normal software. It doesn't do things exactly like it's supposed to. It actually functions closer to the human mind. Sometimes when you ask it's like a human something and they give you an answer, you're like, what are you talking about? That's kind of how these things work. And they can't even drill into them to figure out why they're making stuff up. So they have these flaws, but that doesn't mean they don't have enormous business value. Across all functions of business, you can use them for transcription, for summarization, for ideation, for conversations, for drafting, for improving drafts of anything. So there's all these functions, and I think people often overlook these models because they think they're either writing replacements or they're nothing. And so you use it once as a writing replacement, maybe it doesn't do a good job, and you're like, technology sucks. That's the wrong way to think about this. So to give you a sense of what's going on the left, we have the companies building these language models, what are called foundation models. On the right are the software companies that are building user interfaces and enterprise software on top of these models. So if you wanted to start something tomorrow, go to your marketing team, your sales team, your customer service team, and just go get one of the companies on the right, like a Jasper or Writer. They're built for enterprises. The language model companies are kind of backing in to enterprise software. They're trying to find ways to make money because these models cost billions to train. So this is the part that's kind of like where we get into this exponential growth because it's sort of hard to comprehend. But these models are actually just the foundation for what's coming next. What we're already seeing as of a few weeks ago are what are called multimodal large language models. What this means is I can give it an image and it will analyze it for me. I can give it a chart of your business data and it'll tell you what's happening in that chart. It has reasoning capabilities, it has analysis capabilities. So we're going to have the ability to put content in and it's able to look at it. It's able to speak to us. It's going to eventually have the same capabilities with video. You'll be able to show it a video. It'll analyze what's happening in the video. ChatGPT started rolling this out last week. Google Bard has this. Google is rumored to be launching a new model called Gemini this fall, which will be more powerful, rumor, than GPT-4, which is the most powerful model we have in humanity today. So just this fall, there's a chance that we will have multiple models more powerful than the current one we use now. Where this goes next, where all of the labs are working, is what is called action transformers, or personal assistants, or AI agents, or interactive, they call it. What it happens is it can take action on your behalf. So rather than building an itinerary for a trip, you could say, that looks great, book it for me. It'll book the flight, it'll book the restaurant, it'll do these things for you. So they're all working on that. This goes back to Pi. So I mentioned how it might impact your industry sooner than you think. So I wanted to experiment a little bit with Pi. Pi is meant to be more conversational. It wants to be your friend. It wants to remember everything you talk about. So I said, you go in and it says, I'm here to help. What's going on? I said, I need a companion. And it says, I can be your companion anytime you need me. I can't replace the need for human companionship, but I can be someone to talk to help you through a difficult time, or simply be someone to talk to about whatever's on your mind. Are you feeling lonely? So I said, I'm in a senior living home, and my family rarely comes to visit. He said, oh no, that's so sad. I'm sorry to hear that. It can be so difficult to feel isolated from your loved ones. Can I ask how long you've been in the senior living home? And do you have friends there, anyone to talk to? So a couple years, I don't really have anyone to talk to. That must feel really lonely and challenging. But I'm glad you're reaching out to me. I may not be a human, but I'm a good listener and can be here for you anytime you need to talk. It's important to have someone to talk to about your thoughts and feelings. Can I ask a bit more about your family? Do you know why they don't visit very often? It's not trained for this. This is not some vertical solution someone built for the senior living industry to help people have companions. This is a horizontally trained, large foundation model that somehow has synthesized empathy and understanding and the ability to have conversations with people. I don't know people who are prepared for this. Society's not prepared for this. But anyone, this is free. Like if I had a relative in a senior living facility right now, I could go teach my grandma how to use Pi to keep her company when I'm not around. This is a little more futuristic, but people may not realize that the largest market potentially for Tesla is actually Optimus. They're building humanoid robots. This is a demo video that supposedly is not CGI. This is reality of what they just demoed like 3 weeks ago. This thing learns how to actually do things. As it's interacted with and like people, like another human like changes something, it actually goes back and fixes the thing. There are companies like Amazon's probably going to work on this. Google is probably going to work on this. So sometime, this is more likely probably a 5 to 10 year horizon, there is a chance that you will actually be able to have fully functioning humanoid robots as staff. So Tesla is able to do this better than most people because they actually use the training data from their cars to learn real world views, what happens around people, and then how to interact with that. The breakthrough is the language models that will give these things conversational abilities, the ability to understand what's being asked of them. So I want to leave some time for questions, so I'm going to move pretty quick through the remainder of this. But how do you get started? This is a lot of like crazy stuff, I get it. There's 2 ways to think about this. The first is kind of the director level and above, which is the problem-based. You look at your current business and you say, what is a known pain point or challenge we might be able to solve more efficiently? These are some common challenges we face in business, certainly we face in your industry. One that's kind of rises to the top is staffing. So we're struggling to recruit the right people. If we could just increase the efficiency and productivity of our existing team, we could eliminate the need to hire so many people, and we could actually provide better service and experience to our customers. The second is the use case model. This is looking at all the things your team does, whatever business function you want to look at, and say, are there ways to do those things more efficiently? You look at things that are data-driven, repetitive, requiring prediction, that are generating content, and you say, okay, if AI could help us do this, how valuable would that be to our business? And all you do here is you just go through and you make a list of all the things. You can just do this in a spreadsheet. There's a free download on our site I can send you. Just make a list of each thing you do each day, how many hours a month you're spending on it, what tech you're currently using, how much that tech costs. And what you're trying to get to is what's the value to intelligently automate this? So if your marketing team's spending 100 hours a month making videos, if you could cut that down to 70 hours, 50 hours, 20 hours, like what would that be worth? And you just do that across all the different functions of the business. So in sales, this is a great way to look at this. There's a bunch of obvious use cases in sales. I did ask GPT-4, because that's what I do now, what would be some ideas for the senior living industry. So I actually took my abstract for my talk today, pasted it in as the prompt, and then at the end I asked it, create an outline of challenges senior living facilities face and use cases for AI in their business, and it wrote me a plan. This is what it looks like. I'll send you the link afterwards. But you can see it kind of analyze what are the challenges they're facing, and then it breaks out into different categories, different use cases that could be viable for the senior living industry. Anytime you're working on strategy, ask GPT-4. Like, it is one of the best starters of strategy I can give you. Buying this tech is actually pretty straightforward. What you want to do is look at your current user stories, kind of I like to think about it. When we do this project or this task today, here are the 10 things we do and here's how long it takes. If we have the AI software, what is the human going to do and what is the machine going to do? Of those 10 tasks, which things is the human still going to do and how much time is it going to take? And so you're just trying to find software that takes you to kind of this level 1 or level 2, where the AI is there to assist you. It's not replacing humans. It cannot replace entire roles yet. It's really better to think about it at a task level. It replaces tasks. So you're trying to find solutions that can add 10, 15, 20% efficiency, and then you can redistribute that time to things that aren't getting done, is kind of how I like to think about it. So a little bit of AI can go a really long way. We don't need full autonomy to actually get a massive return from AI technology. So what do you do next? As I said at the start, AI is going to change everything at every level of business, every level of government, every level of education. But if we think about business specifically, it's going to change the way we communicate, the way we plan, the way we staff, how the technology stack is structured. All of this is going to evolve. But what I challenge you to do is think about how can you build a smarter version of your business. And you can start in marketing, you can start in sales, you can start in service, like whatever is best for you. But if you think about those problem-based model and the use case model, pick a function in business and try and find a way to build a smarter version of that. And over time, you can do this across all functions of business, and you can truly build a smarter, more efficient, more innovative business model. The 3 ways I think about this are, how can we better personalize experiences? How can we intelligently automate repetitive tasks? We all have a lot of repetitive tasks that we do. And then how do we enhance creativity, innovation, and decision-making? And so again, if you look at each function of business and you just ask those 3 questions, that will start to unveil a whole bunch of opportunities for AI to build a smarter company. So number 1 is focus on education and training. Siloing this knowledge in a few people in the company is not going to drive the company forward. You need to have a plan to educate the people in your organization. Develop comprehension, because a lot of people are afraid of this. The only way to get through the fear and uncertainty is to teach them it. So focus on comprehension of AI fundamentals. Competency comes from experience. You gotta try this technology. Go try image generation. Play around with ChatGPT+. Pay the $20 a month. Get the GPT-4 version. Really experiment with it. The second thing I would encourage you to do is have an AI council internally. It can be 2 people to start. Eventually, you want to have somebody from maybe each function of business involved. but have a group of people who maybe once a month get together and talk about what is going on, do demos with AI technology in the industry, take the key news and think about the impact it could be having on your business. The third is to build responsible AI principles and generative AI policies in your company. The responsible AI principles, I will send you this link, I'll give it to Michael. This is a Creative Commons template I created that you're free to just take and do whatever you want with it. The whole concept here is it's human-centered though, that we are gonna pursue AI to benefit humans, whether it's our customers, our employees, our community, whatever it may be. The generative AI policies dictate to your team how they're allowed to use 365 Copilot and Google Duet. Like, when am I allowed to use the AI to write my emails, to write my articles, to write my blog posts, to write my proposals, to generate images? Like, am I even allowed to do that as an employee? Most employees don't know the answer to that question. So you put policies in place that tell them what they're allowed and not allowed to do. The fourth, and this really is the executive level, we owe it to our people to do an impact assessment that looks out 1 to 2 years from now and says, they're spending 150 hours a month doing this. A year from now, how much of that can AI do? Maybe it's 20 hours, maybe it's 75, maybe it's 100, I don't know. But it's gonna be role specific. And if it's a significant impact, you have time now to plan ahead, be proactive about reskilling, upskilling, preparing your talent for that. The way this plays out isn't gonna be universal by industry. I wrote something called the law of uneven AI distribution. Basically says the benefit you gain from AI is going to be driven by 3 primary variables. Your understanding of the technology. So now that you know Pi exists, can you find a way to use it? If you didn't know Pi existed, nothing you can do about it. So understanding is the foundation. Then there's access to it. There's a lot of industries I talk to who don't allow their employees to have access to ChatGPT. The European Union didn't have access to Google Bard initially because Google was in a fight with the EU over their AI Act. So 450 million citizens couldn't even use Google's AI. So access is key, and then your acceptance of what you have to give up to get the benefit. Privacy and data are the 2 main players. So all kinds of amazing AI, but you have to get up something to get that benefit from it. And so the final thing is, once you kind of have these ideas in place, once you have some structure to help build this plan, build an AI roadmap that looks out a year or 2 and says, here's how we're gonna prioritize use cases. These are the problems we wanna pursue and solve. Here's what we're gonna do with our staff. And really sets a roadmap for the organization that lets them know you're thinking about it and you're gonna be transparent in how you play this out. So the final thing I'll say is, don't wait for it to get smarter. It is going to get smarter. This fall is going to be mind-blowing. If you start now, you can get out ahead, not only in your industry, but honestly in the business world. There are so few organizations that have done the 5 steps I just showed you. Most of them, including Fortune 500, are at the pilot stage. They're just trying to find a couple AI projects, a couple AI softwares to do. So you have a chance now, as overwhelming and as abstract as this may seem, to actually start taking steps each day to get out ahead of this. With that, I'll turn it over to Michael for questions.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you very much. We have abbreviated questions here. Any questions?
ChatGPT 4 still only goes up to 2021. Is there any anticipation that that's going to be real time soon?
It is
in terms
now.
of the data.
2 weeks ago, they turned the browsing back on. So if you, so what he's asking is like, the way these language models work is they have a training run where they learn from a data set, and then they stop the training, and then they do what's called red teaming, which is they basically have a bunch of safety people checking to make sure this thing doesn't go haywire and do evil things. They all do evil things. Out of the training, without any red teaming, these things do stuff that would blow your mind. So they have to go in and basically put a bunch of guardrails in place. So when GPT-4 came out, it was 7 months old, and they stopped the training data in fall of 21. So it didn't know anything. So if you went into ChatGPT and asked it, who's the CEO of Company X, or who won the Super Bowl last year, it might make it up, confidently tell you something. It didn't know it. So it's like humans. They just confidently say things they don't actually know anything about. So What they do, though, is they connect it to Bing. So if you go into ChatGPT Plus, or you're paying the 20 bucks a month, you can actually, from the drop-down, select Browse with Bing, and it will now connect ChatGPT to the internet to verify information. Google Bard is connected to the internet as well.
I have a comment, and then I'm just curious of what you think about what I'm going to share. First of all, I'm a PhD, spent a lot of time on my education. I have been in the field for 35 plus years, and I see myself as a critical thinker. And so when I watch all of this going on, and I love technology, and I know that it's not going away, but I look at our people that are in the younger generations behind me that have a hard time just writing an envelope or a letter because of all of our technology. So when I see all of this up there, and I put my own PowerPoints together over the years, et cetera, how would you respond to those of us who are concerned about the critical thinking aspects of who we are as a person or humanity to stay up with this, to ensure that we don't lose that part of us in terms of the thinking aspects to who we are?
It's a really good question. I share that concern, and I think about it daily. I mentioned earlier, like I've talked with a lot of universities, presidents, deans, directors of different schools. I have a 10-year-old and an 11-year-old. I think every day about how they're going to process this stuff. So I will say, like, first, I don't use AI to write anything. Like, I use it to ideate and build outlines and stuff, but like when it's writing, that's how I critically think about things. So I have no interest in AI replacing me as a writer. I don't want to use it for that. The kind of the trillion-dollar question right now, though, is when it's capable of doing all human cognitive thought at a human level or beyond, which most top AI researchers think is within 5 years, that it'll be human level at all cognitive tasks. Then how do we develop expertise? Like, the reason I can use a writing tool right now is because I'm a writer by trade. I can look at the output of ChatGPT and be like, that's really good, or it's not, or whatever. I was talking with a friend yesterday who was a head of industrial design at an institute. He was showing me how he's using it, but he assesses the output, whether it's designing a car or a building, because he's an expert in it. He's done the work. That is, again, having talked to presidents of universities, they're all wondering the exact same thing. We still need people to be able to become experts through experience, through critical thinking, because you have to be able to assess the output of the machine. You have to be able to tell the machine what you want from it. And right now, the people who are experts in their field have a far better advantage. I'll give you one quick example. My buddy is a dentist. He messaged me, I don't know, 5 months ago. He said, I'm getting crushed. Insurance has my costs up 15%. I can't raise my rates because they're controlled, or inflation has my costs up 15%. Insurance controls the cost, so I can't, my profit margin is getting squeezed. I'm dying here. And so I went into GPT-4 and I said, okay, you're a dentist, here's what's happening, inflation is doing this to your cost, insurance controls your pricing, so you're kind of stuck. How do you maintain or increase profit levels through AI technology? It spit out a 10-point plan for a dentist. I have no idea if it was good or not. I texted it to my buddy. He goes, holy shit, where'd you get this? And I said, well, I just asked ChatGPT. And he goes, there's 3 of these things I wouldn't have even thought of. Like, I'm going to do this tomorrow. He's an expert. He went through school. He did this. So that's the part we don't know. Like, how this plays out, you still have to be an expert to know the quality of it. And I don't know how you do that in school. Yeah, one over here.
We have time for one more quick question.
I'm trying to figure out how marketing, it seems like it's a very logical thing in senior living that we can do, maybe like you said for the dentist or otherwise, and you have these overlay companies that kind of know how to use all this. Is it better to get a hold of one of them to help us with some of these marketing efforts, or even operational efforts, or different ways to have operational efficiencies, et cetera?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not up here to do a big promotion, but like my Marketing AI Institute, we're catering to practitioners and leaders in marketing. So we have online courses, we have events, we have newsletter podcasts. Like, we basically give people the knowledge and tools to do it themselves. So you can appoint people to go learn how to do it, and they can learn very quickly how to do this themselves. The obvious use case in marketing, though, is the AI writing tools, like a Jasper or a Writer. So if you just wanted to just start tomorrow and have them go do something, I would have them start looking at those existing solutions, because they're like 15 bucks a month, 29 bucks a month. Like, it's cheap. You could easily run a 3-month pilot with something. The other one I'll tell you is if you do podcasting or webinars, Descript.com is like our go-to, and it costs, I think it's $15 per user per month. It's DESCRIPT.com. They have a bunch of AI features that drive massive efficiencies in the production of our podcast and our webinars.
I can second that. We use Descript as well.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So unfortunately, we're out of time, but Paul, again, thanks for coming here and giving everybody an overview on the current state of AI.